I placed my Virginia State Bar card on the courtroom table and watched my husband's $500 an hour attorney stop smirking. My husband, the man who told his divorce lawyer I was just a housewife with no marketable skills, had hidden $2 million from me and was convinced I couldn't even afford a decent attorney. What Greg didn't know is that I graduated third in my class from Georgetown Law and spent 6 years doing corporate litigation before I gave it all up. For him, but to understand how I ended up sitting across from him in that courtroom, you need the whole story. And real quick, if you're into stories like this, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. We drop new stories every single day, and trust me, they only get crazier from here. All right, let me take you back to the beginning. I'm posting this from a throwaway because my divorce was finalized about 4 months ago, and honestly, there are people in our old friend group who still think we just grew apart, or whatever. I met Greg in 2014 at a fundraiser in downtown DC. I was 29, an associate at Morrison & Foerster, pulling in $187,000 a year plus bonuses, on track for partner. He was 31, working in tech sales for some cloud infrastructure company. I forget the name now. Charming, confident, the kind of guy who remembers your coffee order after hearing it once. We got married October 2015 at a little vineyard in Loudoun County. Gorgeous day, like 72 degrees in late October, which never happens. And that's kind of when things started changing, though I didn't see it at the time. When I got pregnant with our first, Olivia, Greg started dropping these little comments. Wouldn't it be nice if one of us could be home full-time? Kids with a stay-at-home parent do so much better. He'd leave these parenting articles on the kitchen counter. Subtle stuff. And honestly, he wasn't wrong about the hours. I was billing too, 200 hours a year and barely sleeping. So when Olivia was born in August 2016, I took maternity leave. I never went back. Our son James came in 2018, and by then I was deep in it. PTA meetings, soccer practice, meal prepping on Sundays while watching Dateline. I didn't see it then, but every year I spent out of the workforce, Greg was quietly building the case he'd eventually use against me. His career took off. He joined a startup called Veridian Analytics in 2017 as VP of Sales. The company grew fast. He started traveling constantly. Austin, San Francisco, New York. Gone 3, sometimes 4 days a week. I handled everything at home. Every doctor's appointment, every school project, every 2 a.m. fever, where you're sitting on the bathroom floor with a sick kid wondering if you should go to the ER. I thought we were a team. Okay, so the thing that blew it all open happened on a Tuesday in March 2024. I think it was the 12th. Actually, no, it was the 19th because the kids had just gotten back from spring break at my mom's. Greg had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. He was in the shower, and a notification popped up from someone named David Arnott at Arnott and Castellano Family Law. Subject line, Asset Protection Strategy. I just stared at it. I knew I shouldn't open it. I opened it anyway. And what I read, I had to put my hand on the counter because I got dizzy. The email thread went back weeks. Greg had been talking to this divorce attorney since February. He'd laid out our entire financial picture, or what he wanted the attorney to think was our financial picture. The joint checking, savings, house equity, all on the table. But then there were accounts I'd never heard of. A brokerage account at Charles Schwab with $347,822. Stock options from Veridian that had vested over 3 years' worth. I had to read it twice. $2.1 million. $2. $1 million my husband had never once mentioned to me. Not once, not even a hint. But the money wasn't the worst part. In one of his replies, Greg wrote this about me. She's been out of the workforce for 8 years. She's just a housewife with no marketable skills. I don't think she'll even be able to afford a decent lawyer, let alone fight this. I read that sentence 4 times, took a screenshot, closed the laptop, made myself a cup of chamomile tea, the Celestial Seasonings one in the yellow box. I remember that specifically for some reason. Sat down at the kitchen table, and just sat there for maybe 20 minutes. Then I started planning, because here's what Greg forgot, and I swear this is the part that still makes me smile. This mistake was about to cost him everything. I didn't just go to law school. I was good at it, really good. 6 years of corporate litigation. Depositions, motions, discovery disputes. I knew how to find what someone's trying to hide, and how to take apart a weak argument piece by piece. My bar license was technically inactive, which, fun fact, in Virginia, reactivating it takes about 10 days in a form. I filed the paperwork the next morning from my phone, while Greg was eating the eggs I made him. I know how that sounds. For the next 7 weeks, I said nothing. I smiled at Greg across the dinner table, packed his lunches, kissed him goodbye when he left for work. Normal wife stuff. And every single night after the kids went to bed, I sat in the guest room with my old law textbooks and a yellow legal pad I bought at the Staples on Route 7, studying Virginia family law until like 2 in the morning. He never checked on me, not once. I told him I was reading before bed, and he just said okay and went back to scrolling his phone. But I wasn't just studying. I was building a case against him. I quietly hired a forensic accountant named Priya Mehta. Cost me $800 out of a personal savings account Greg didn't know about birthday money from my parents over the years. Some freelance consulting I'd done. Stuff like that. Priya was worth every penny. Within 3 weeks, she'd traced Greg's entire financial maze. The Schwab account, a Fidelity account, opened under just his name. Deferred compensation from Veridian. A cryptocurrency wallet on Coinbase with $83,400 in Bitcoin, which Greg barely knows how to use the TV remote. So the fact that he figured out crypto tells you how motivated he was to hide money. Stock options, structured specifically to look less valuable on paper than they actually were. Total hidden assets, $67 million. Now I just had to wait. Greg served me with divorce papers on September 14th, 2024, a Saturday morning. He did it over breakfast, like he was asking me to pass the butter. Had this whole rehearsed speech about growing apart and wanting different things, practicing his sad face, told me he'd already retained David Arnott, and suggested I find myself a lawyer. Don't worry, he said, pouring himself more coffee. I'll be fair about everything. I almost laughed, almost lost it right there at the kitchen table. Instead, I told him I'd think about it. What I actually did that weekend was organize 6 folders of financial evidence, draft my initial response, and prepare my disclosure demands. The kids were at a birthday party most of Saturday, so I had the house to myself. Got a shocking amount done. When Greg found out I was representing myself, he laughed. Not like a little chuckle, he actually laughed. I overheard him on the phone with his mother that evening. He was in the garage and didn't know the window was cracked. She's going pro se, Mom. This is going to be the easiest divorce in Fairfax County history. He sounded so pleased with himself. The first hearing was November 4th, 2024. I showed up in a navy suit I hadn't worn in 8 years. Still fit, by the way, which felt like its own small victory. Greg was there with David Arnott, who looked exactly like you'd expect a $500 an hour attorney to look. Cufflinks, perfect hair. They both looked relaxed. Judge Patricia Howell presided. Arnott went first, painting Greg as the sole breadwinner, the financial engine of the family. He called me a dependent spouse with limited professional prospects, who should receive standard alimony and an equitable split of disclosed marital assets. I was writing notes the whole time, calm, focused, and that brings us to the moment I told you about at the start. I stood up, placed my bar card on the table, and watched every ounce of confidence drain from Greg's face. Arnott's smirk, gone. Just like that, I told the judge I had voluntarily left a $187,000 position at Morrison and Forrester to serve as primary caregiver for our 2 children at my husband's repeated request. I presented my old pay stubs, my partnership track evaluations, and a letter from the managing partner confirming I'd been on a partner trajectory. Then I presented Priya's forensic accounting report, all 62 pages of it. I watched Arnott flip through it. His face went white. He asked for a recess. The judge denied it. And that was just the first hearing. Over the next 3 hearings, I took apart everything Greg and his attorney tried. They claimed the stock options were speculative. I pulled SEC filings showing Veridian's last funding round, valued them at $127 per share. They argued the Schwab account was premarital. I produced deposit records proving every dollar went in after 2016. They tried to lowball the house appraisal. I brought my own appraiser who valued it $120,000 higher with comparable sales within a half-mile radius. Arnott was not having a good month. The cryptocurrency was my favorite. Arnott insisted it wasn't a marital asset because Greg had purchased it with personal hobby money. Personal hobby money. I submitted the transaction records, showing every single purchase came directly from our joint checking account. The judge actually raised an eyebrow at that one. Like visibly, by the final hearing, Arnott looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, and Greg wouldn't even look at me. Judge Howell's ruling came down January 23, 2025. I was awarded the family home, primary custody of both children, 70% of all marital assets, the stock options, the brokerage accounts, the crypto, Greg's deferred compensation, monthly alimony of $14,200 for 7 years, child support on top of that. The judge specifically noted that Greg had demonstrated a pattern of financial concealment inconsistent with the obligations of marital transparency, and that my significant career sacrifice was a determining factor in the distribution. Greg's total loss came out somewhere north of $2 million when you add up the assets, the alimony commitment, and the $85,000 he paid Arnott for the privilege of losing. It's been about 4 months since the divorce was finalized. I reactivated my bar license permanently, and I'm working as a part-time legal consultant for a family law firm in Fairfax. The irony is not lost on me. Olivia is 9 now, James is 7, and they're doing great. Really great. They see Greg every other weekend. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Riston and sold his BMW 5 Series. Last I heard through a mutual friend, Lisa, if you're reading this, sorry, he's been telling people he got screwed by the system. No, Greg, you didn't get screwed by the system. You got outlawyered by the woman you called just a housewife. I don't feel guilty, not even a little. And I've thought about it, trust me. I gave that man 8 years of my life, my career, my entire identity. I literally forgot what it felt like to be good at something that wasn't packing school lunches. He repaid me by hiding millions and calling me worthless to his attorney. The only thing I regret is not seeing it sooner. There were signs. I just didn't want to look. So, was I wrong for representing myself and going after every cent he tried to hide? What would you have done if the person you gave up everything for was planning to leave you with nothing? Drop it in the comments. And if you're going through something similar right now, remember this. Knowing your worth isn't the same as being greedy. Sometimes it's just survival.